Hello lovely friends, welcome back to Onyx Food Hill. In this video I'll be showing you how to make tapioca flour, which is also known as tapioca starch. To make tapioca flour, we are going to make use of cassava roots. So I'm going to start by peeling my cassava. There are different types of cassava roots. There's the bitter one and there's the sweet one. The sweet one is good for any recipe, but the bitter one is not good for eating. The sweet cassava has red branches, while the bitter one has green branches. I'm just saying this so you'll be able to identify which one is good for you. A lot of people often get confused with the difference between tapioca starch and tapioca flour. Tapioca starch or tapioca flour means the same thing, but the correct word for this is tapioca flour, because tapioca is simply a starch that is derived from cassava roots. So the proper way of calling this is tapioca flour. So guys, after peeling the roots, we now proceed to wash them. So I'm going to rinse this under running water, and I'll make sure there's no dirt on the cassava roots. To make this easier for us, I'm going to grate this cassava roots, so I'm going to be using the very fine holes to do that. Okay guys, here is my thick cassava paste. If you cannot go through the process of grating this using a hand grater, you can as well blend this. If you're going to be blending this with your blender, you will have to cut this into tiny pieces so that it will be easy for the blender to blend. So once I have cut them into smaller pieces like this, I'm going to bring this into the blender. So I'm going to add water to the blender first. Then I'm going to add the cassava pieces a little at a time so that it doesn't hook the blender. Just make sure you don't overwork your blender. Once you're done blending, you should have a very smooth consistency like this. Very smooth. Okay, so now I'm going to turn this over into a bowl. Using a blender to process this just makes it a little bit faster than using a grater, but they both have the same consistency, so whichever way you prefer to process this cassava, you can just stick to that. So I'm going to bring the other one I grated into the same bowl. I'm really preparing a very large quantity of tapioca starch, so I still have some left, which I'm going to still bring into the same bowl. But before I bring the second batch in, I'm going to start mixing this one first. So I'm just going to add water to dissolve the paste. Just make sure it's a little bit runny, just like this. Now I'm going to strain the paste. So to strain this, you will need a bowl and a fine strainer like this. We are going to strain this twice. So the first straining, I'm going to pass this over this strainer because this paste is really thick. So for the second strainer, we are going to use a very fine cloth or cheesecloth so that we'll get the finest starch out from this tapioca. After straining the paste the first time, I'm still going to be straining this the second time so that I will get the finest flour from it. So I'm going to be passing this over a cheesecloth so that it will give me a very fine starch at the end. In order to show you how it settles down, I'm going to bring this into a transparent bowl. This is how much we've got so far. I'm going to leave this to settle down for a while. I have left the starch to rest for 4 hours now. The liquid has become clear and it has separated from the starch. So if you look, obviously this is where the starch is and here is the liquid. We are going to carefully decant the water from the starch. Gently decant the water from the starch and make sure you don't mix the starch into the water again. Now we have our solid starch at the bottom of the bowl. It's solidified. Okay, next I'm going to transfer the tapioca flour to my baking tray. You can use the sun to dry this, or you can simply dry this using a dehydrator. So I'm going to be using the oven to dry this. Okay guys, so I have spread this out in the oven tray. I'm still going to dry this in the oven to get the water completely out. So guys, here's our tapioca flour after drying this in the oven for 2 hours. So now I'm just going to turn this into a very fine powder because it's grainy. Once you turn it into fine powder, you can easily use it for baking. So that's what I'm going to do right away. Once I'm done blending this, I'm going to pour this into a very fine sieve, and I'm still going to sieve it to make sure I have a very fine flour. Now my tapioca starch is sifted. Look at how fine it is. We have a very smooth and clean powder. Now you can use this for your baking. It's really perfect for baking. Tapioca flour is gluten free. It's a good substitute for wheat flour or all-purpose flour. Guys, you can use this tapioca flour to make biscuits, cookies, bread, cakes, pancakes, and tapioca pills. And also you can use your tapioca flour for thickening of stews, sauces, and soup. So guys, this was how to make tapioca starch at home. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to be bringing this tapioca starch into an airtight container. Make sure you store this away from moisture and share this video with your friends and loved ones. Thank you for watching guys. Do remember to give me a thumbs up. Until next time, bye for now.